Oh, yeah. Please bear with me. Early afternoon edition, 2 o'clock instead of 5 o'clock today. But I've got some plans this evening. Terrence got some plans this evening. We just figured we'd knock this out today. And, I'll just be honest with you guys. Late in the week, I thought we were going to come on today, talk for 15 minutes about Saturday and move on with our lives. There's, Utah and Baylor both didn't play today. We're essentially in the same scenario we were in last week. Utah is going to come in here with number 1 rated offensive line in America, ranked number 13 by the College Football Playoff Committee. And Baylor's got an opportunity to either get a huge upset victory Saturday or I think, as most of us would anticipate, probably lose. Drop to 5-5, and then you got 2 games left to try to make a bowl. But of course, the news of the week is this deal with Mack Rhoades. And if you're unfamiliar, you can catch up with the story. I think Outkick kind of ran with it first. The Athletic has run with it since, and there's others reporting on this. But just to paraphrase the reports, and then I'll bring in Terrence Ganaway to comment. The reports are that Mack Rhoades confronted Michael Trigg prior to the Arizona State game about wearing a gold undershirt when the rest of the team was wearing white. And, again, what is being reported is Mack was verbally and maybe physically aggressive. And, the coaches had approved Trigg's clothes, and so it shouldn't have been a big deal, but Mack freaked out. And then there's another report that suggests that Mack got into what at best might have been a shouting match, and what worst might have also been another maybe minorly physical altercation with an assistant coach after the game. And so those things are being reported. Here's what else is being reported. And, I think anytime there's a report about Baylor football and investigations, if you're like me, you get a little PTSD, and I start getting worried about what happened about 10 years ago, with Coach Briles, and it's like your brain may jump like mine, like worst case scenario, like, crap, here we go again. Why can't we have nice things? But what's being reported is that whatever happened with Mack Rhoades, Baylor immediately conducted its own investigation and took disciplinary action against Mack, which includes he has not been on the sideline since. Now, let me tell you some context from me, and then I'll bring in TG to bring in some context from him about this story. My context is I had heard about this about 2 weeks ago. And this was not what I had heard. I had not heard about Michael Trigg. I don't know what happened with Michael Trigg. What I heard 2 weeks ago, and maybe, like a game of telephone, some of this got misconstrued. I heard 2 weeks ago someone say Mack went ballistic on Dave Aranda after the Arizona State loss. Excuse me. And that that's why he had not been on the sideline, as he had been suspended. So I think it's important to say, from my seat as a weekly podcaster, commentator on these things, and then I'll bring in Terrence. It's important to say a couple of things. One, I am only repeating what has been reported. We need to be aware that there are circumstances and perhaps even altercations or conversations which are not being reported. And there are a bunch of factors and interests and influences that could cause this report to come out when maybe other things are not being reported. Okay, that's one thing we need to say at the outset. We on this podcast, we're only going to say what is being reported. I don't think I'm in a position to make a truth claim or to share other rumors that have not been reported. It's not my job. So that's what's been reported. It should be observed. It should be observed. And I believe this is factual. And I was going through Twitter right before we went live just to verify that there's been no update here. Baylor investigated this incident, including video, having video footage of whatever happened. Baylor, which I believe is extra sensitive to these things. I believe Baylor is aware that it needs to be above board when it comes to reputation, character, etc. Frankly, that's part of why we've said Dave Aranda probably has more security in his job than he would at other schools, is because we know Dave Aranda checks the character box, right? Baylor investigated this. That's factual. And Baylor deemed that the appropriate consequence was suspension from Mack Rhoades being on the football team sideline. They did not conclude that Mack should be suspended as AD, fired. No other consequences were levied by Baylor. It should also be pointed out, and this is where I was really curious when I was looking today. The College Football Playoff Committee, I believe, starts getting together tonight through Tuesday to release their next set of rankings. Mack Rhoades is the chair of said committee. And as of it is 2:10 p.m. right now on Sunday afternoon, there has been no action taken by the College Football Playoff Committee or the NCAA against Mack Rhoades. I fully expect at this moment that Mack Rhoades will be once again chairing that committee this week, starting this evening or tomorrow morning or whenever they get together. And he will be back, I imagine, on ESPN Tuesday night for the rankings reveal to talk through why the rankings look the way they look. I will be fascinated to see if they ask Mack about this. And knowing ESPN and knowing Baylor's history, I imagine they will. We should keep an eye on that. That's going to be really interesting television. But again, we're only going to talk about what's been said. Keep in mind, there's always things that aren't being said. Maybe you've seen some of those as well floating around out there from others. It's not my job to spread rumors. It's my job to report what's being said, reported, factual. And then Baylor and the committee have deemed whatever happened wasn't severe enough to warrant more than kicking him out of the sideline for a little bit. That could change. But if Baylor truly did investigate this, and if the committee truly was aware of this, I think it was probably a little less severe than maybe other parties might be inclined to believe. Okay, there's my spiel on it. Let's bring in Baylor legend and my friend, co-host, football savant. What else? Metaphor, king of the strong metaphor, Terrence Ganaway. Terrence, I want to let you say whatever you want about this situation, but really where your perspective is so valuable. I don't know what an AD's usual involvement on a game day is or should be. And I don't know how to feel about, I know as a general rule, like if Mack really did put his hands on a player, that's a line that should not be crossed ever. But like, what do you make of this as a former player, someone who's been on the sidelines, been in these environments? Like, what the heck is going on here?
Well, I don't think we know. I don't think we truly understand what's out there or the implications of it. I think there's an ongoing discussion in the background, but from multiple sources and multiple different perspectives, it looks like there's some truth to a little bit of all of it, and yet none of it has truly surfaced. And I know that's a conundrum to even think about the statement I just made, but the video that supposedly can show the alleged event has not surfaced, but from a couple of people I've talked to, the video has been shown to Baylor and the football committee, and they both deemed it was a non-issue. I heard that Mack Rhoades decided not to be on the sideline for Kansas State. We got a home game next week. I wonder if that continues through the rest of the season. But to people out there that are listening, trying to figure out what's happening, I think there's some fire where there is smoke, but we don't know it. And I don't want to speculate on circumstances that are truly foreign to me, and I don't have a shotgun seat to it. But what I would add to this conversation is from a player's perspective. AD owner, ESPN just went through this a couple of weeks ago when they were talking about Woody Johnson, who is the owner of the New York Jets. And he's like, well, any head coach that has a quarterback like that, you're going to have a similar record. And he's talking about Justin Fields. Justin Fields took it a type of way. I think the staff took it a type of way. They responded well. I know Nick Mangold was a teammate of mine when I was in New York. He passed away. The Jets responded. They won a game, and I thought that was huge on their part. But let's see if they can continue to track the right way. AD, owner, should never interfere with in game, protocols or cadences or structure. I mean, the coach works all week long to create a game plan and an atmosphere and a mindset to be disrupted by not someone that's in the media, but someone on your own sideline. I think that causes a ton of confusion. Whether Mack Rhoades and Aranda had disagreements about expectations and what the season is going, that is a moot point. Like, I would assume that would happen. Everyone knows that Dave Aranda is on a hot seat. The commentators in the game last week talked about it all day long. Like, it is a must win for Baylor. Must win. Aranda's on the hot seat. Everyone knows that. So they have fiery discussions. That's to be expected. But Matt Rhoades should never overreach his position and talk to a player on a sideline during a game, other than saying, great catch, let's go close it out. I cannot imagine anything other than supporting and elevating your players from an AD or owner perspective during a game. I cannot imagine anything other than that ever being appropriate, ever. And so the fact that this is coming out, I heard if a video ever was released, it would show a different light of one of the players that were alleged to be in the video and who has maybe been leaking this information. If you talk to people outside the organization, they have a sideline incident with a football player. But if you talk to people within the organization, there's an incident where it doesn't look like that. So that's my thoughts on the incident. One of the other thoughts I have here is attire. I get swag. Sluby had bands and he had, a leg sleeve and all that stuff. I didn't wear socks. Like, that's different. But when you get a uniform attire that's so strikingly different than everyone else, then I wonder if you get a little bit more leeway. And I can tell you right now, in the NFL, Michael Trigg and family, you get fined for that. Matter of fact, they make you take it off. There's only certain circumstances, appreciation, cancer awareness, veteran, where they let you have some creative liberty. But you're never as big as the logo. And that's what the NFL will stand for, and they will continue to, whether you ever play a down or you play 10 years in your first ballot Hall of Fame. You will have to conform to the standard of whatever organization drafts you. And it's going to be a newsflash because they're going to work hard every single day. And a coach is going to get in your face every single day, and he's going to demand nothing but absolutely absolute greatness out of you. And if he doesn't get it, you will. They're going to go get someone cheaper, more hardworking, a better cultural fit for the team, and they're going to get rid of you. The reason why the NFL keeps going to the well in terms of Georgia, Ohio State, Alabama, Oregon, is because they have an elite standard. Everyone tucks in their jerseys. Everyone's uniform looks the same. There's some uniformity, like they do the basics better than no one else. And the reason why the NFL will always be the NFL and why you can see a guy come off the street and have a performance of his lifetime is because they really don't need you. They got guys that are fighting tooth and claw to get an opportunity to play in the NFL. And if you think you're ever going to walk in there and you're going to say, hey, this is done, this isn't done. Now, what I have heard from some other people is that Michael Trigg had an emphatic speech prior to UCF, which probably saved Dave Aranda's job. I mean, Scotty and I talked about this last week after the game. Is the team responded, and the team responded well to their head coach, which is great. That's what they're supposed to do. A lot of guys on the team probably felt that way. Let's see what they do this week. I don't expect anything crazy this week against Utah. I think Utah is dead set on, if they win out and some other things happen in the conference, that they could possibly be in the Big 12 playoff. I don't think they're coming into Waco to overlook Baylor, especially after a performance we had against UCF. But as you come back on screen, Scotty, what I would tell any athlete at Baylor University in any sport, if you don't think there's a standard that you cannot get away with at the next level, then you're sadly mistaken. And so as we close out this year, I think the uniform, I saw it against Arizona State. For me, I think it's, if you have different shoes and you have different gloves, that's fine. When you have a big bird special long sleeve shirt on, I think that's drawing attention to you and away from the logo. And I'm pro Baylor. But this stuff, we can't leak this stuff, or we can't try to drive divisiveness within the program and expect to have a championship caliber team. And you won't, all the stuff that happens at Georgia, athletes getting arrested, drinking and driving, you never see anything about their head coach and AD going against those guys. They support them. They bring them back. They probably get them in programs, but it's not public, and they go win championships. This is what causes a faulty foundation to split right down the middle. You can't have weak leadership. You cannot have weak men. You cannot have weak players. Baylor all around has to get it together. And I hope they do that in short order.
Where do you start?
You got to win. I think when I
but you're not talking about wins and losses here. You're talking about the pillars underneath the whole thing, right? So I don't know. I guess that's my question. Like everyone's. I just hate it, man. I'll just tell you right now. I just hate it. I'm going to Baylor basketball tonight. The men have Washington coming into town. Scott Drew said this week, it's the rare case where you get a huge non-conference basketball game at home. More and more of these are moving to neutral sites, and Baylor's got a real opportunity hosting a borderline top 25 team, Washington, and Baylor's kind of a borderline top 25 team right now themselves. It's going to be a great night. And I'm so mad that I'm going to this game for probably the most, if not one of the most functional kind of silos of Baylor athletics with the basketball program that seems to do most everything right most of the time. And all I'm seeing on X is like, dadgummit, let's fire the head coach. Dadgummit, let's fire Mack Rhoades. Like, it just feels like you're talking about standards and culture and weakness. And I'm like, man, where do we, because if Mack Rhoades is the problem, and I'm not saying he is or isn't, I've actually mostly been pretty much a Mack Rhoades defender before this story kind of came out. I don't know, man. What do you like? What do you make of like people that feel a certain kind of way about all of it?
Man, I was working in healthcare, and I saw some shady stuff go down, and I reported it. I didn't want to, and the lady I told in confidence, she said, "You can't get anyone else fired. They fired themselves." And I still felt bad about explaining this situation to the leadership of the organization. But it was necessary to growing. And so if Dave Aranda gets fired, he's going to get fired for not achieving what him and the AD thought was possible at Baylor. And so all this off the field stuff, this is not going to delay anything. This is not going to expedite it. What needs to happen is you have to overcome it, and you have to have a focused week of practice, and you have to come out and play a decent game against Utah. Utah is, I think, number 11 or 12 in some polls today. We'll see where the big poll, the college football playoff poll, puts them on Tuesday. But if you want to shut up everyone else, go beat Utah.
Yeah.
Go beat Utah. But what I think is a larger issue is that there is no standard within the athletic program. Sorry, my bad. Within the football program. There's a very loose culture within that program. I don't think it's built on, not saying, guys, please don't misquote me here. I'm not saying these guys don't work hard or these guys don't compete.
Right.
I don't think the culture currently is built on work ethic, discipline, and fundamentals. Because you cannot build a program on those three things and see what we see week after week in football and then say that we are a hardworking team. Do we have athletes? Do they work? Do they show up? Yes. I just talked to a 12-year-old yesterday who's looking at going to play lacrosse, and his dad is like, hey, man, I need you to tell him what it's like to get to the next level. And I said, intentionality. There's some kid this weekend that's going to watch Jonathan Taylor for the Colts get 300 all-purpose yards, 10 touchdowns. He's going to be like, I want to be the next Jonathan Taylor. He's 6 years old. He's going to turn his hat backwards like Scotty right here, and he's going to go to work for the next 12 years. Intentional. What I see each week is nothing intentional. I don't know, and I know I've said this several times. I don't know if there's one group on the football side, on the football team that's gotten better as the year has gone on. That's a fireable offense. Scotty showed the graphic of the defense. That's a fireable offense. Offense has regressed. They're not playing as efficient as they were early in the season. That's a fireable offense. Penalties post-snap on defense, that's a fireable offense, because all of that in the aggregate and the total equals to bad football. And that's how you lose a coach. And like I said, if me and my wife are not on the same page about finances, there's probably a heated discussion. I would never put my hands on Jenny at all. That's not a question. But there's probably a heated discussion. It's probably warranted. If I'm the AD at any major university in this climate and your coach cannot field a consistent team, the heated discussion is warranted. Now, you're a grown man. You should never, I tell my kids all the time, I don't care what people say to you. Let them say whatever they want to. You have my full permission, if they ever put their hands on you, to put their teeth in the back of their throat. And I'll never forget my wife saying, Terrence, she hit me. Like, you can't say that. And I said, I'm sorry, kids. If anyone ever puts their hands on you, you have my permission to put their teeth in the back of their throat. And then when you get kicked out of school, I'm going to be there and I'm going to take a couple of days off. And me and you going to have the best time of our life. and sometimes I think like maybe we should put hands on Coach Aranda just to get him fired up. Let's see if he swings or bows up. And we talked about this last week, Scotty, that sometimes he feels like his back against the wall and he comes out there and plays hard. I need someone with that same level of intensity. I don't need it. I would like it, especially at an institution like Baylor. The Big 12 is wide open. If Texas Tech can do it, if BYU can do it, they're probably the two biggest budgets in the Big 12 this year. And they're probably going to stay that way for a while.
Yeah.
There is no way we should not go toe-to-toe with everyone else in the conference. And maybe we get lucky and we don't even schedule those two. BYU is a great program.
By the way, we don't have – this was the year. We don't have either of them on the schedule this year.
Yeah.
This was the year, and we blew it in terms of that.
And I mean, you just can't do that. So that right there in itself, I don't think Matt Rhoades put his hands on anyone. I mean, I just can't see one as much as I would like to see aggression out of Aranda. I can't ever see him being baited into touching Aranda or putting his hands on any player in a game. You can't be that invested. But if he did, then we all know that the pressure of Baylor is much higher than we assume.
Hey, I don't know if it was my internet or yours, but I lost the very last part of what you said. So sorry, I don't have a smooth transition.
No,
out of whatever.
I just said if any of it's true, like he put his hands on someone, then that means the pressure at Baylor for the AD is a lot higher than we all assumed.
Bro, I think we can see the pressure on him like before this even came out. And I don't listen, Lord knows. Lord knows. Y'all see what I'm doing today. Wearing my cap, goofy. I don't care. Like I live and let live is one of my philosophies. People can be who they want, dress how they want, do what they want. It's not my business. It is factual though. Again, I'll stick to facts. I'll just stick to what I see. That there have been some photos of Mack Rhoades in the past year, some appearances of Mack Rhoades that have caused people to ask questions of like, hey, is this guy okay? And I know even when he went on ESPN Tuesday and he looked sharp, nice suit, got a nice little haircut there, so he doesn't have the wild man hair while he's doing the ESPN football playoff committee stuff. I talked to people who know him personally, and I said, does he just like look thin, or has he lost a lot of weight? They're like, oh no, he's lost a lot of weight.
Man, that GLP-1 though, it's a real deal.
Yeah, I think he feels, Terrence. I do. I think he feels the pressure, man. And I think I don't know if it's pressure to be excellent or pressure over his own job, but I think. And I said some of this last week or 2 weeks ago. Mack Rhoades deserves a lot of credit for the Matt Rule hire. That was the correct hire. Matt Rule got Baylor football back at the level it should be. Recruiting, development, championship game, all of it. He deserves credit, in my opinion, for the fact that Scott Drew is still at Baylor and did not take the Indiana job when he had the opportunity and did not take the Kentucky job when we know for a fact he had the opportunity. I give Mack Rhoades credit for that. The Kim Mulkey thing is divisive. We anybody that's observed Baylor athletics for 2 seconds knows That's two Bulldogs right there. And, you know, my perspective, and it's just mine, is Kim Mulkey was probably not long for Baylor. As soon as Coach Drew won a national championship, no matter who was the AD, and I think the Nikki Collin hire, even though, you know, I wish the women's program had a little more success than they've had in the last few years, I think Nikki Collin has mostly been pretty good replacing a legend. You don't replace Kim Mulkey. You just don't. She's one of the three best coaches in the history of the sport.
Yeah.
I think Nikki Collins been mostly really good for Baylor and has kept Baylor women's basketball very competitive. They need to get to an Elite Eight. Like they need to get back to like kind of that upper echelon. They might this year. I think she got one of the best players in the game with Talia Scott. So we'll see how that goes this year. But he is feeling pressure. The Steve Rodriguez baseball hire was a disaster. That was a disaster. Not that baseball is the same kind of revenue generation as football or basketball, but it's, you know, there have been periods where Baylor baseball carried a lot of that athletic department with some success, and they have not. I know there's pressure around NIL and some of the secondary sports. I know Baylor just had to let go of, in August, some of the smaller sports SIDs just because they can't afford it with the way revenue sharing is happening. I mean, the sport is changing, but now, Terrence, I say all that to say all those things about Mack's hires to say, it appears as though the Dave Aranda hire through 2021, you could obviously say was a good hire. But the decision to extend him, retain him after 2023, and what has been a disappointing 2025, I think is probably putting incredible pressure on Mack Rhoades.
Yeah, they're tied together right now, and I think Matt Rhoades can't fire him at 6-6. I mean, he could. I just don't think he will, and that would mean if and I mean, I think we have a Oklahoma State Gundy type conversation at the end of the season. Like, hey, we need to restructure your contract. Like, we have to do something that's more favorable for us. Obviously, you did not perform under your current contract, and we have to do it. And I don't know if he accepts it or he walks away, but I can tell you right now that the whatever happens with Aranda will deeply affect status of our current AD, because it's been terrible to watch. And I think, you know, Nikki's done really well as well. I think the expectation at Baylor is Elite Eight every year and forever, and then maybe have a Final Four run in there. Because it's a program that you can build the right way. And we started out great. We beat a top 6 Duke team over across the pond in Paris. So, like, let's.
That was a tremendous win for Nikki, by the way.
Yeah, it was a huge win, one she needed. She didn't need it, but it definitely gives the fan base a lot of a hope for how what the ceiling is for this year. What I would say about Aranda and Mack Rhoades is somebody's going to have to fall on a sword. And when rumors like this stuff starts to come out, I feel like somebody's pushing each other over their sword. So I hope it's not that case, because I don't want it to turn into a telenovela at the end of the year. But Baylor just doesn't need that type of TV. Like, we need to have, if you're going to recruit a primetime head coach, if you have to get rid of Aranda, I'm pretty sure he's going to have to talk to a lot of other people if he feels like his AD that he's coming into is on a short lease as well. I mean, if someone offered you a job, Scotty, and you heard they were on their way out, like, you would rethink the job you're getting offered.
Correct.
So we got to make sure that we do the due diligence, let the investigation play out, but also respond with the right way, and then let the wins and losses determine where we go from here. If Aranda doesn't win 6 games, I think is very clear it's necessary. I hope that Mack Rhoades has some really good people that he trusts in his ear to help him pick next successor to David Aranda, if necessary.
Are you surprised that we haven't heard any kind of public comment on this from Mack Rhoades since this came out a couple days ago?
Yeah, I think you won't hear anything. I know you said something earlier in your monologue as we opened. I don't think ESPN or the committee is going to talk about this on Tuesday. It doesn't make sense. Baylor's not a factor in the playoff committee. When you think of what's happening, he's literally the figurehead there. And the most important things is getting the top 12 right and then ranking the best of the rest. But Baylor in no way, shape, form, or fashion should be brought up on the CFP conversation on Tuesday or discussion. It shouldn't be brought up in discussions when they get together tonight or tomorrow to talk about how they want to see these teams. The only focus for these 12 men, and like we talk about bias all the time, and when you add, even though this is not about Baylor and the other teams, you got to remove all of this from your preview and just focus solely on football. Focus solely on football. And I think that's where the BCS got it right. Whereas now there is so much subjectivity in how they rank. Like, keep all that nonsense out. Like, are you winning? What's your strength of schedule? Are you playing at a high level? Everyone's healthy according to them, and not leaving Florida State out a couple of years ago. Those are the priorities of the committee. So I will be shocked and very disappointed. Doesn't mean anything to any of those committee members, probably not. But I'll be shocked and disappointed if they even mention anything regarding Baylor, because honestly, it should be out of sight, out of mind, especially if they've already reviewed some of the investigative work and determined that Mack Rhoades is good to move forward. I think that's the most important thing. If this situation, he didn't have to be honest with us, but amongst his peers, he has to tell them the truth so they can make the best decision for the brand.
Yep.
The logo. And I think college football playoff has determined that Mack Rhoades was not at fault. Baylor handled it appropriately, and that he's good to continue to move forward in his current role as chairman.
Do you think they'll put out a statement to that effect?
No. I think the more you talk about it, the more you have to confront it. Mack Rhoades is not going to say anything about this. And he doesn't really get press conferences like the head coach. Now, I can see Dave Aranda getting some of these questions in a post game or Monday, tomorrow, and media day. I can see that. But, a lot of times, to me, I just feel like ADs are really, they're ghosts. They're in the background unless they want to be a prominent figure in the media. And Mack Rhoades, honestly, he disappears from the spotlight on this issue, and it's a moot point. Like, I don't know why. I know parents are upset with the way the football's season is gone. Athletes are upset, rightfully so. It is very underwhelming when there was so high of expectations. But in terms of anybody addressing this outside of Baylor, I don't think. I mean, ESPN would have ran a story. The only people that ran a story was Outkick. Are they even affiliated with the big network?
They just got bought by it wasn't just Outkick. Sorry, it wasn't Outkick. It was
the Athletic.
Well, the Athletic got it second. It was it was Outkick, wasn't it? Yeah. So no, they're not. But I the Athletics reported on it. I've seen some seen some of the bigger name college football analysts mention it on X. And maybe it is just my fear, bro. Maybe it is my, very low key PTSD of what happened 10 years ago of like, oh no, like national media is about to run with this story and make Baylor.
I mean, if there's some truth to it.
Yeah.
If there's some truth to it, Scotty, run with it. I just don't think there's a lot of truth to it. And I mean, when you think about when I heard about this, we got it sent to us in a text message, and I don't even have the Athletics. So someone, sent it over to me, the synopsis, and I'm like, that sounds fishy. And I think I might have responded like, hey, if he did confront around about wins and losses, then hey, like somebody has to. Like I can't do it. I'm not going to be standing on the doorsteps right in front of the Simpson building or wherever they meet now as a team. But what I will say is Baylor has to stop all this nonsense. And I don't know if someone leaked it. This is the second time in the same year, and this is the NIL stuff. Like parents are too involved. I bet you Gino Auriemma doesn't have to deal with none of this. But when you got Robert White right in the spring, his daddy leaking information saying this is what Baylor's offering or whatever, and then you got someone else, Michael Trigg's dad, saying this and stuff. Like, that doesn't do anything. And it really doesn't help your son out at all. And so, like, what are you trying to do? Like, you're dismantling the program and it's crumbling from within. Like, that, like, you got to teach your son how to be a teammate first. I always tell that to my kids when I'm coaching and training. I'm like, hey, be the best teammate you can be. Everything else is going to work out. You work hard. But like Baylor's got to figure out how to stifle some of this noise and keep it at bay. But these parents are ridiculous. I mean, I can't imagine in this climate, Scotty, like all the people that these kids have in their ear.
Yeah.
Bro, I mean, there were weeks, my mom passed away. There's weeks I ain't talked to my dad. And if I did, I really wasn't talking to him about football. We're just talking about life. Hey, how's everybody's doing? Everybody's healthy, blah, blah. And to be like, man, did you practice this week? What was coach saying? Like, I'm not giving you any material to put on the internet ever.
Yeah.
But, social media is giving everyone a voice and made people feel important. And some of these parents are not as important as they think they are.
Right. Okay. Sorry. I had a cough there. Terrence, I'm going to go get ready for some other things. Get ready for a little men's basketball tonight. You got things to do. Any thoughts on Saturday? I mean, it's hard to say I'm feeling good, bro. I know we're kind of down on this team right now. You did just blow out UCF at home. Did a lot of things right in that game. Kind of the other end of the spectrum, though, with the Utes coming into town.
Listen, if we play our best game, we can beat them.
Right.
I don't think we play our best game.
Yeah.
I think we played our best game of the season. We used that mulligan last week against UCF. Baylor has the talent. We have the players. We have the skill set. Now it's all about the execution. And what we have not seen this year, Scotty, from Baylor is a consistent execution throughout the year. Definitely not in all three phases outside of last week. But then we still had a bunch of penalties. And like you're like,
well, and last week, I'm not taking away the 31-3 victory. That's huge. But it was penalties. It was turning the ball over at the very end of the first half. You should have shut that team out. They only got those 3 points because you turned the ball over with a minute left or whatever it was in the first half. Yeah. And then also, and again, this is a credit. You went up 14-0 quick, which is a credit and the reversal of a trend that's been bad all year, which was starting slow. But then the offense really only sputtered the rest of the game. You had some bursts, you had some big plays, But to start 14-0, and maybe I'm just being too entitled over here as a fan, but when you start up 14-0 on the first 2 drives and then you score 17 the rest of the game, I thought maybe we should have seen a little more. But you're right.
My expectations this weekend is just go out there and have fun. Go out there and play free like you did last week. No pressure. Like, I don't think when we looked at the season, even if we were, 9-0, I guess, at this point of the season, like this was still a maybe game. Circled on the schedule. I think knowing what we've seen as far this year, Arizona's beatable. Houston's beatable. Man, Houston barely beat UCF. They were on the road. I know they've had a couple of sputter in the last 2 games, but like Baylor could finish 7-5, bro. And we look at this and think like, how in the world did we get here? But I don't think they finish 8-4. They would have to beat Utah this week, and Utah, after watching BYU gets dismantled by Tech yesterday, Utah has to feel very good about, maybe having some outside factors happen and them getting into the Big 12 championship game.
Yeah, so it's still a tough path for them because of where Cincinnati's at and BYU as well. But I mean, here's why Utah's feeling good, Terrence. They don't even need to get into the title game, in my opinion, because they're ranked 13th last week in the playoff ratings.
I know,
so listen, bro. We saw it happen, with other teams last year. If they went out and finished 10-2, and therefore but they do not, let's say they do not make the championship game, they might still get in. Because at this point, the burden of proof would be on the committee to then move them backward. Because I assume that teams in front of them are going to lose. So, it's just interesting. It's an interesting thought exercise. And,
this is what I don't want to get into. Like, I agree with you on premise of like schedule, what they've done, and they beat a top 20 ranked Cincinnati when they played them. Their last 3 games of the season is Baylor, Kansas State, and Kansas. They should walk all 3 of those teams.
Agreed.
But when you look at them and you see Missouri that's 9-3, and you see a Vanderbilt that's 9-3, you think the committee is going to put in over those 9-3 teams?
I do.
Over a 10-2 Utah team that only beat 1 ranked team in Cincinnati, who may finish 9-3 themselves. I mean, at least Vandy is lost to Alabama. They just lost to Texas, which is the name for that game. Missouri just lost to A&M, who probably is going to be number 2 or number 1.
Listen, I hear what you're saying, and I would submit to you sincerely, I would not have ranked Utah 13 last week. I would have had, if it was Scotty's playoff rankings last week, I would have had Utah around 20, 21 because of what you just said. But the committee had them 13. And so in the committee's mind, Terrence, that is where they are. So I think moving ahead, if they went out, they're probably going to finish 10 or 11. Now, what sucks is, and Texas and OU fans were mad about this last week, Utah could finish 11 and not make the playoff because the ACC team ranked below them and the group of 5 team get the automatic bid. So maybe that's the scenario. Maybe Utah finishes 11 and gets, I mean,
you most likely will have Texas Tech and BYU in the championship game again.
Correct.
And both of those teams beat Utah. So
correct.
If either of them win, they'll finish out the season 11-4. and 2.
But I bet you, if
They're not going to put 3 Big 12 teams in there, bro.
they're not going to put 3. You're right. I agree. They're not going to do 3. I agree. But I wonder, and I'm just wondering out loud, and this is fun, and then I'm going to go, though. If BYU loses again to Texas Tech in that championship game, I wonder if, and we've seen this happen before, if the committee doesn't do that like trajectory thinking where it's like, well, BYU only played 2 huge games late and dropped both of them, but Utah lost their games earlier in the season and they're better now. I think Utah would get in over BYU if BYU lost, even though BYU has the head-to-head.
Your BYU gonna send all that money to the committee, bro. Listen, that's the reason why they got the budget, bro.
Are you saying that Mack Rhoades can be bought?
I am saying that when Ohio State went to the playoffs and one of their former athletes said, dang, it feels good to have a lot of money. When Baylor should have went and they went on and won it all, it is should have gone. My wife would have corrected me. You should have too. But I don't know, man. I just think whoever loses out of BYU and Texas Tech, and assuming they both play in the championship game, I don't think either one of them will drop below a Utah who finished the season with Baylor, Kansas State, and Kansas.
That's fair.
And they'll have one play one more game. And I think they did this last year with our Big 12. Who won our Big 12 last year? Iowa State?
Arizona State.
Arizona State. Who got second there?
Iowa State.
Okay. Well, I thought
but Arizona,
see that last year that got. I think
Iowa State. I think Iowa State or BYU might have snuck into that playoff last year as a second Big 12 team, except Clemson beat SMU in the ACC championship, and they had 3 losses. So that put Clemson in an automatic spot. And then Arizona State, blew out Iowa State in that Big 12 title game. That wasn't close. And so I think
the playoffs last year?
Yeah. They played in Austin at Texas in the first round.
Huh. I know SMU got smacked by Penn State.
Yep. So I think anyway. So here's the deal then. As far as the Big 12 goes, all eyes should be turning to November 22nd. BYU travels to Cincinnati. And that will likely be essentially a play-in game for the Big 12 championship. BYU at Cincinnati.
Then it'll be a 3-way tie, right?
No. So
Cincinnati will. Oh, they only have one loss, conference loss.
Correct. BYU and Cincinnati both have one conference loss. Everybody else has at least 2. And so we're assuming Tech's going to win out. That would leave. Anyway, that's kind of the game to watch in a couple weeks.
Who does Cincinnati have? Shoot, Arizona could beat Cincinnati too.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think they're a good team. And we got them next week. The following week, yeah. All right, Scotty. It's been real. All right,
Terrence. It's been fun. It's been real. Real quick, let me thank my friends Gather & Co., Kitchen and Bath. There they are, right there. If you're doing a remodel in Central Texas, it's not just kitchens and baths. Obviously, that's in the name. They're good at that. But it's also outdoor spaces, pergolas, porches, kitchen, outdoor, any of that stuff. Call my friend Kelly. Tell him, Scotty, please bear with me, sent you. They are people of integrity. They are people who do their job right the first time. And if they don't do the job right, they'll come back and do the job right. I really trust them, love them, appreciate them for supporting. Please bear with me. Terrence Ganaway, it's been a pleasure, sir. thanks for bringing your insight to this Mack Rhoades deal. I really thought we were going to have nothing to talk about today. But as always, bro, when you and I get to talking, we blink and it's been an hour. So I love you, man. I appreciate you.
Anytime, Scotty, man. Let's have a great week of work and let's have a great week of practice. And let's see if we can knock off these Utes.
Let's go beat a ranked playoff committee team on Saturday. Sick 'em Bears. It's been Please Bear With Me. Make sure you like and subscribe on YouTube. It really helps us out. Make sure to follow these Baylor Bears, man. Very excited for this basketball team. Big game tonight against Washington, 7:30 tip. I will be there. If you're coming in Waco, make sure you wear black. It's a blackout night. Yeah, so thanks so much for checking it out. And I'll talk to you next week. Terrence and I will be here at 5 o'clock. Back at it next Sunday night. This has been Please Bear.
We are Rogue Media Sports.